The most beloved fantasy world ever created was born from a nightmare. It wasn't just a story of elves and wizards. It was a soldier's promise to his dead friends, built as a monument against the horrors of the modern world. And the one object at its center holds a terrifying secret about the power and technology we are grappling with every single day. His name was John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, and he was, by all accounts, an unlikely creator of legends. Born in South Africa in 1892, he was brought back to England as a boy and settled in the hamlet of Sarehole. It was a place of rustic beauty, a pre-industrial paradise of watermills, green fields, and quiet woods that became the bedrock of his imagination. It was a vision of peace and simple goodness that he would later call the Shire. But even then, this peace felt fragile. On the horizon, the city of Birmingham was growing, a place of smoke and industry that Tolkien instinctively distrusted, seeing it as a profound threat to the natural world he loved. This tension between the garden and the machine would become a central conflict in his life's work. After his mother's death when he was just 12, Tolkien was left an orphan. In the world of words, he found his only true refuge. He became a codebreaker of ancient languages, Old English, Old Norse, Welsh, and in their sounds, he found a kind of magic, a history deeper and more real to him than the shallow novelties of the encroaching modern age. At school, he and 3 brilliant friends formed a secret society they called the T.C.B.S. They weren't just a club, they were a fellowship, a circle of young poets and dreamers who believed they were destined to create a new art for England, to bring light and beauty back into a world growing increasingly grey and mechanized. They dreamed of creating a new mythology, one that would restore a sense of nobility and enchantment to their nation. But a shadow was gathering over Europe, a storm that would shatter their dreams. In 1914, the Great War began. By 1916, Tolkien was a second lieutenant on the Western Front, thrown into the meat grinder of the Battle of the Somme. In the mud and chaos of the trenches, Tolkien witnessed a horror that surpassed any imagined dragon. He saw a new kind of warfare, one where ancient virtues like courage were rendered meaningless by the impersonal efficiency of machine guns and artillery shells. He saw the products of industry unleashed with terrifying force, churning the countryside he loved into a lifeless, cratered wasteland that looked like a preview of Mordor, and he saw his fellowship of friends torn apart forever. Both Rob Gilson and Geoffrey Smith were killed. From a hospital bed, recovering from the trench fever that likely saved his life, Tolkien received a final, haunting letter from Smith. "My chief consolation," his friend wrote, "is that if I am scotched tonight, there will still be left a member of the great T.C.B.S. to voice what I dreamed." The charge fell to Tolkien. He was the survivor. He understood then that his life's work would not just be an artistic pursuit, it would be a memorial. He had seen the forces of mechanical, impersonal evil grind the world into dust, and he had seen the profound courage of the ordinary English soldiers, the Batmen, who endured it all with a simple, unyielding resilience. He knew his great story could not be about invincible knights. It had to be about the small folk, the humble souls who carry on when all hope is lost. He had survived the war that had stolen his friends, but he now carried a new burden, the need to build a world from their ashes. And it would all begin, not with a map or a hero, but with the sound of a single beautiful word. Before there was a ring, there was a vast and storied history, a world that breathed with the memory of gods and elves, of great triumphs and terrible sorrows. This was not merely a backdrop for a story. For its creator, it was the story itself. After the war, Tolkien settled into the life of a scholar at Oxford University, but in private, late at night, he was a sub-creator, a builder of worlds. The project he had begun in the trenches, his secret history of the world, was growing into something of staggering complexity. For Tolkien, a believable story required a believable history, and a believable history was impossible without believable languages. It was an obsession with depth. He didn't just create a language for his characters, he created characters and histories for his languages. He invented 2 complete elvish tongues, Quenya and Sindarin, each with their own grammar and ancient family trees of words, allowing him to trace a word's origin back through imaginary centuries. From this linguistic foundation, a world began to emerge. If these languages existed, who spoke them? The elves. Where did they live? What were their songs about? Answering these questions became Tolkien's private obsession. He wrote tales of the creation, of angelic beings, and of the tragic rebellion of the greatest of the elves, Fëanor, in a quest for 3 jewels that contained the last pure light of creation. This sprawling biblical cycle of myths would become the Silmarillion. Its central theme was the corruption of good. Its first villain, Melkor, was the most powerful of the angelic beings, but his desire to create things of his own, to rival his creator, twisted into a lust for domination, a will to control all life and bend it to his design. This theme, of good curdling into evil through pride and a lust for power, would echo throughout his entire legendarium. It was never intended for publication. It was his mythology for England, a land he felt had been robbed of its native legends. Then, one day, while grading an exam paper, he scribbled a sentence on a blank page that would change literary history. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. The story that grew from that sentence. The Hobbit was a children's tale published in 1937 to great success. His publisher immediately asked for a sequel. They wanted more about hobbits, more light-hearted adventures. But Tolkien hesitated. He saw a chance for something far greater, an opportunity to finally bring his vast secret history into the light, disguised as an adventure story. If you are enjoying this journey into the mind of a master storyteller, consider subscribing to our channel. We explore the history and meaning behind the world's greatest works of art, and your support allows us to continue bringing these stories to light. This new Hobbit, as he called it, would not be a children's story. It would be a story about the long defeat, about the endless struggle against the shadow that resides in the world and in every heart. To build it, he drew on the myths he loved. Gandalf, the wise wizard, owes much to Odin from Norse mythology. The epic tone and plain-spoken courage of the Riders of Rohan are a tribute to the Anglo-Saxon poem Beowulf. But Tolkien synthesized these elements into something entirely new. He built a world that felt as real as our own, with its own maps, calendars, and ages of history. He was no longer just a writer. He was the primary historian of a world that existed only in his mind. The stage was set for a conflict that would define the fate of this world, a war against an evil rooted deep in the past. In a world of kings and wizards, the fate of all was placed in the hands of the smallest, most unassuming of peoples. For Tolkien, true heroism was not strength, but resilience, and this conviction would form the heart of his masterpiece. The story begins in the peaceful Shire, but the tone is immediately different. The magic ring Bilbo found is revealed to be the One Ring, forged centuries ago by the Dark Lord Sauron. He poured his own malice and will into it, making it a vessel of his power and the key to dominating the world. The ring is not just an object, it is a whisper, a promise, delivered to the dark corners of your own mind. To a man like Boromir, it whispers of the strength to save his people. To a being like Galadriel, it promises the power to preserve all that is beautiful against the decay of time. It finds your deepest, most noble desire, and it offers you the power to achieve it. All you have to do is use it. It is a lie. The only end it serves is its own, and its purpose is total domination. The ring asks a terrifying question, one more urgent in 2025 than in 1954. Are there certain technologies, certain powers, so corrupting that the only moral choice is to destroy them, not use them even for good? What is your ring of power? Is it the algorithm that promises you a world without disagreement, only to trap you in an echo chamber? Is it the political ideology that promises to fix everything if you just grant it absolute control? The task of destroying this ultimate temptation falls to Frodo Baggins. His quest is not one of conquest, but of sacrifice. He cannot defeat the Dark Lord with the ring. He must journey into the heart of Sauron's own domain, Mordor, and unmake it in the fires of Mount Doom. The protagonist is defined not by his strength, but by his vulnerability. The hobbits, with their love of simple pleasures, have no ambition for power, making them uniquely resistant to the ring's poison. Frodo's quest is a spiritual test against the slow, grinding temptation of despair. He is not alone. He is joined by the Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf, Aragorn, the Hidden King, Legolas the Elf, Gimli the Dwarf, Boromir of Gondor, and Frodo's fellow hobbits, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. This group is more than an alliance. It's a radical act of trust. It brings together races that have been estranged for centuries, suggesting that unity is possible even against a backdrop of ancient prejudice. Their journey is a slow stripping away of innocence. They move through a world layered with memory and sorrow, a world where the age of magic is fading. This sense of loss gives the story its unique melancholic power, but the Fellowship is a fragile alliance. At the Falls of Rauros, it breaks. Frodo realizes the ring's poison will turn them against each other and chooses to go on alone. He is followed only by the one person whose loyalty is absolute, Samwise Gamgee. The Grand Alliance has failed. The fate of the world now rests on two small hobbits, venturing into the land of the enemy. As the world plunged into war and darkness closed in, hope became the scarcest and most precious of resources. The story's central question becomes clear. Can goodness endure when evil seems inevitable? With the breaking of the Fellowship, the narrative splits. One path follows the clash of armies, the sound of horns and clashing steel under vast open skies. The other follows a small, desperate struggle through claustrophobic darkness, defined by silence, the taste of ash, and the oppressive feeling of a single watchful eye. In the west, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are drawn into the kingdom of Rohan. Their king is ensnared by the lies of Saruman, the fallen wizard. Saruman represents the corruption of wisdom, a lust for power that has twisted him into a rival of his master. He has turned the beautiful valley of Isengard into a living nightmare. Where there were once green trees and clean rivers, there is now only the stench of burning oil and metal, the rhythmic, soulless clang of forges breeding an army of Uruk-hai. The battle for Helm's Deep is a desperate defense against impossible odds. But even here, Tolkien's focus remains personal. It is here he reveals his secret weapon against despair, what he called the eucatastrophe, the sudden, impossible turn for the better, the miracle that snatches victory from the jaws of defeat. Just as all seems lost, Gandalf returns, and the sun rises behind him as the riders of Rohan charge to save the day. It is a victory earned not by might, but by grace. While these great battles rage, Frodo and Sam continue their agonizing trek towards Mordor. Their journey is the mirror image of the epic war. No trumpets, only the grinding misery of their quest. The ring grows heavier, draining Frodo of his will. The narrative becomes an intense psychological drama, and the only thing that sustains it is the unwavering loyalty of Samwise Gamgee. Sam, the gardener, becomes the guardian of memory. When the darkness of Mordor threatens to extinguish all light, it is Sam who remembers the Shire, the taste of strawberries, the feeling of sun on his face. These simple memories become a weapon, a light in the oppressive darkness. He becomes the book's true hero, carrying the burden of his master's hope. Their journey is illuminated by small acts of pity, like Frodo's decision to spare Gollum, a twisted shell of a creature who is a terrifying vision of what Frodo could become. That single act of compassion will prove to be the hinge upon which the fate of the world will turn. What moment of loyalty or friendship in your own life felt like a light in a dark place? Let us know in the comments below. This stark contrast is the genius of The Lord of the Rings. It argues that while the destinies of kings are important, the real war is fought in the landscape of the individual soul. The true struggle is to resist despair, to hold on to goodness, and to keep walking when every fiber of your being tells you to give up. The ring was destroyed, the Dark Lord vanquished, and the world was saved. But for those who bore the deepest scars, victory did not feel like an ending, but a profound and sorrowful transformation. The climax does not take place on a glorious battlefield, but on the fiery precipice of Mount Doom. After a journey that has stripped him of everything, Frodo Baggins stands at the edge of the abyss and fails. At the final moment, the ring's power is too great. He claims it for his own. This is perhaps Tolkien's most profound statement on heroism, that no single person, no matter how pure, could have willfully destroyed such a concentrated form of power. Heroism has its limits. But the pity Frodo showed to Gollum now bears its final, unexpected fruit. Gollum attacks Frodo, bites the ring from his finger, and in his ecstatic joy, he missteps and falls into the fire, destroying himself and the ring forever. The evil is not undone by a heroic act, but by its own insatiable, self-consuming nature, aided by an earlier act of grace. With the ring's destruction, Sauron's power is unmade. Aragorn is crowned king, and a new age of peace begins. It should be a moment of pure triumph. But Tolkien had one last crucial chapter to write. When the hobbits return home, they do not find the peaceful Shire they left. They find it scarred and broken. Saruman's agents have taken over, felling trees, building ugly mills, and tyrannizing the populace. This chapter, The Scouring of the Shire, is Tolkien's final poignant statement. It is about what happens when you win the Great War, only to come home and find your own neighborhood has decayed from within, from apathy, greed, and a lust for petty control. It is about the fight that is never over, the one for your own community. The hobbits, no longer naive, must fight one last battle to save the very thing they went to war to protect. They succeed, but the healing is not complete for everyone. Sam, Merry, and Pippin can return to their lives, but Frodo cannot. He bears wounds that will never fade, both physical and spiritual. Like a soldier returning from a terrible war, he is haunted. He has saved the Shire, but not for himself. The story ends on a note of bittersweet sorrow, as Frodo departs for the Undying Lands, the only place he might find peace. It is an ending that denies us simple celebration, forcing us to confront the true cost of sacrifice, and the Tolkienian idea of the long defeat, the belief that our role is often to fight for what is good and beautiful, even in the face of inevitable loss and decay. If this exploration of Tolkien's world has resonated with you, please consider sharing it with a friend who appreciates the power of a great story. The Lord of the Rings has become a cornerstone of modern culture. Its enduring power lies in its depth, its history, its timeless themes of friendship and courage. But Tolkien's real secret wasn't just about building a world, it was about showing us how to survive its ending. He gave us a map for navigating our own dark times, reminding us that even when the heroes fail and the magic fades, the fight for the good in the world is never truly over. That fight falls to us. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Middle-earth. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the classics. We'd love to hear from you, so leave a comment and let us know what story you'd like us to explore next.